Hello everyone, my name is Christopher Massimo, and today I'm going to be doing a reaction video off of some of the statements that Kevin Love recently released on some of his mental health struggles. For those of you who don't know, I'll recap a little bit on what has happened. In November, Kevin Love experienced a panic attack during one of his games. He proceeded to run back into the locker room and had to go through multiple stages of this panic attack. Following this, he started to kind of reevaluate his needs and ended up going to see a therapist. At first, he was a little bit hesitant and skeptical about it, but now he sees this therapist a couple times per month. And he said it's been a huge help. One of the things that they've worked on is some issues he's had with his grandma. And it's mostly off the court stuff. Very little of it has been actually basketball related or performance related. But at the beginning, Kevin Love was a little bit skeptical about this, not just from a how can this help me standpoint, but from a what happens if people find out I'm doing this standpoint. He didn't want it to be seen as something that would look poorly on him as a teammate or as a player or as, whatever. He didn't want it to be, there's something wrong with me and I'm less than. Okay. I'm going to go over a couple of the quotes, and I'm going to, from a therapist perspective and someone who specializes in athlete concerns, I'm going to kind of break down each of these quotes and talk just briefly about how it relates to athlete mental health and some of the research and some of the other stuff that I know about. Okay? So one of his quotes was, growing up, you figure out really quickly how a boy is supposed to act. You learn what it takes to be a man and be strong. Don't talk about your feelings, get through it on your own. End quote. So let's look at this from, obviously we know that this is kind of the stigma you have, or the expectation you have of being male, which is kind of suck up your feelings, handle it on your own, be a man, whatever. Now compound that, so that you have the American culture and Western culture that's telling you to do that as a man. Now compound that with an additional culture, an additional layer. And that layer is being an athlete. Okay. Now athlete culture, if you take it as a subculture, encourages the same exact thing from their athletes, particularly in more of the physical sports. Football, rugby, basketball as well. It encourages you to kind of just suck it up and handle what you have to handle off the court so it doesn't impact anybody else around you. And if you do tell anybody that something is wrong, you could jeopardize your playing time, your scholarship, your pay, your salary. You could jeopardize tons of things. Endorsement deals, etc., etc., etc. So this culture, this subculture within being a male in America, only adds to that lack of help-seeking behavior for the athlete. Now compound that with different types of cultures. Let's say you're a Latino male, where you have a lot of machismo types of concerns, and now you have that additional ethnic pressure of sucking it up and being a man and taking care of responsibilities and things of that nature. So you can have multiple layers when you're an athlete of cultural influence that discourages you from seeking help and tells you how you're supposed to act. And the way that it tells you you're supposed to act isn't get help and tell people what's going on. It's pretend that it's not there, or look the other way, or make sure nobody knows so it doesn't impact your salary, your playing time, etc., etc. Okay. Another quote is, mental health isn't just an athlete thing. What you do for a living doesn't have to define who you are. This is an everyone thing. It absolutely is an everyone thing. And for God's sakes, we need to get off of this idea that athletes have the perfect world, the perfect life, and you got a scholarship to college, so your world is awesome, and you're athletic, so God loves you because He gave you talent. This is all a bunch of bullcrap. What we know is that with that comes responsibility. With that comes additional pressures that the average population doesn't have to deal with. They are blessed with certain gifts, certain height and immeasurables, certain verticals and 40 times, and it's all true. But with that comes certain pressures, certain cultural pressures that they otherwise wouldn't have. This isn't everyone thing. And I actually think he's referring to, this isn't just an athlete thing, it's everybody else. What I'm referring to is, it's not just an everybody else, it's an athlete thing too. I think it goes the other way for the most part. I think the general public naturally believes that athletes don't have any issues, or that maybe, their life is so good and they're so gifted and they've been handed this or that or the other, so they can't have problems. And it can't be further from the truth. I think it's easy to assume we know ourselves, but once you peel back the layers, it's amazing how much is still there to discover. First part of that quote, where he discusses, for one thing, basketball wasn't the main focus. Okay, A lot of the research, and what I'm really pushing for, is that there needs to be more research on athlete mental health. The other 6 days and 23 hours of the athlete's life outside of the performance, that 1 to 3 hours that they're actually engaging in the game that week or whatever, and could have a tournament, could be more than that, but you understand what I'm saying. What is going on with the rest of that person's week, the rest of that person's month, the rest of that person's year? What most people focus on when I say sports counseling, sports psychology, it's performance. How do we get the athlete to perform better? Because it's all about the bottom line, it's all about the dollar, it's all for coaches, it's all about keeping their jobs. And so how do I get my athlete to perform better? Well, you do that by making sure the outside layer of their life is right. Now, I use a model called RAMP. RAMP stands for relatedness, autonomy, mastery, and purpose. It's a model I created, and it's based on a lot of sports psychology research. And these are the 4 pillars of athlete mental health and success, and therefore success on the field as well. But really, it can be applied to almost any general population, but it's more specific to athletes. Did anywhere on there in RAMP, relatedness, autonomy, mastery, and purpose, any of those say performance? No. Okay, if you want the athlete to perform better, the athlete needs to have better mental health. And so for Kevin Love, it was a breath of fresh air for him to go in with a clean slate, and for someone to see him as something more than a basketball player. To wonder what is going on in your life outside of that. What is indirectly in this circle damaging the inner circle, your basketball career, damaging your ability to be a good teammate, to be a good leader, this, that, or the other. Okay. It was refreshing to him, and it's refreshing to a lot of my clients. For God's sakes, we got to get off of this how do I just get the most out of this player to perform? He's more than a performer. Okay, he's more than just an artist. He's a physical artist. Okay, but he's a human too. Okay, and we got to get off of this just performance-based. Guys, really proud, really happy that Kevin Love came forth. Multiple players are starting to come forth with their mental health struggles, and they are not, athletes are not free from mental health concerns. It doesn't mean they all have a mental health illness or a diagnosable issue, but there's tons of sub-threshold concerns out there. Athletes aren't free from that, and I'm working really hard to get people to understand. And Kevin Love and people like Kevin Love who step forth and admit to some of these struggles that they're having, they're doing a service to the athlete community. The NCAA made $1 billion last year. I think that just came out today. $1 billion, like 1.1, for the first time in its history. And yet, I struggle to find any preventative measure for NCAA athletes for their mental health. Preventative. It's all reactive. It's all, let's wait till something goes wrong, then we'll refer them out to a practice in the area next to our college, and then we'll handle it then. Here's issue number 1 with that. Again, based on what Kevin Love has said and what other athletes have told me, they're not going to tell their coaches that something is wrong because they're seen as less than. So if you're only reactive, they're not going to get the help that they need because they're not going to tell you that they need it. You need to be preventative. And a $1.1 billion industry like the NCAA, obviously the professionals have money. High school's a little different story. But at the NCAA level, I'm really pushing for there needs to be preventative measures. Because there are people who need it but will not speak up. There are athletes who need it but will not speak up. I'm really happy Kevin Love spoke out about some of the struggles he's going through. Every time I see an athlete do this, I get really inspired, I get really pumped up, because this is a population that is in front of everybody's eyes, but is always neglected. Athletes, always neglected. They're there for your amusement, they're there for your entertainment, but as soon as something goes wrong, then they're seen as less than, they're damaged goods. Now they can't perform. And that's a bunch of crap. You're not going to get fired from your job because you're having a mental health issue. They shouldn't get fired from theirs either. And we have to work on eliminating the stigma and encouraging athletes to seek out help early. Junior high, high school, college, early. So that their professional careers will be better for them and for everybody around them. Guys, very passionate topic for me. Please leave your comments below. Let me know what you think about what I'm saying. Let me know what you think about athlete mental health, about Kevin Love. Please subscribe. This one's near and dear to my heart. I'm going to be doing a lot of videos over athlete mental health. Let me know what you think.